Hi everybody, welcome back to another Stoneforge gaming video. And today we're going to be taking a look at this guy, who is a wizard that I painted up for a cooperative Frost game, or Frostgrave rather, game, that me and my dad were playing, and basically, so what we did was we took the Frostgrave rules and I'm playing the wizard, and he is playing the captain. And so we basically took those two roles, and then what we did was we started creating basically other war bands that would come in on the other side. We kind of give sort of points values to the other side, and then basically both of us would kind of work as the kind of running AI logic of like, okay, what would these things do? And then we would kind of both between the two of us figure out, okay, well this thug over here would run here and attack our guy or whatever. So it's actually kind of interesting because it's like I said, it's a cooperative Frostgrave campaign, and we've played, I think, a couple of games of it so far. But anyways, this was kind of my wizard that I ended up doing up for that, and it's kind of interesting because I went with a, if you're familiar with the Lord of the Rings novels, now not necessarily the movies because it doesn't really. I think they mention it maybe at one point in the movies, but in the novels, Tolkien writes about the blue wizards, which you have, obviously you have Saruman the white, and then you have Gandalf the gray, and then you eventually in the Hobbit movies you see Radagast the brown, and but they don't really, the two characters, the two blue wizards don't really show up in either the books, or I don't think they show up in the books, but they kind of talk about them because there's actually two blue wizards, which is interesting. So you have one of each of the other colors, and then you have two blue wizards. But anyway, so this was kind of my idea, was to take, because this guy was he very clearly had that Gandalf style look to him already, but I didn't want to go with the straight up like complete homage to Gandalf the Grey, although it obviously has a slight look of that, with the pointy hat and the beard and all that sort of stuff. But he's got the sword and the staff. But I wanted to kind of take it a different route and make my wizard a one, like, look kind of like one of the my interpretation of one of the blue wizards from Tolkien's, because again, if you're obviously everybody knows Lord of the Rings. It's kind of the biggest thing in fantasy, at least in my opinion. But I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to try something out. So I used a lot of different techniques on him. Nothing too crazy, but I figured we can take him over the table and check out the details and see what we did with him. And here we have the blue wizard for my cooperative Frostgrave game that I will have been playing a little bit back and forth. And this is a Reaper model, a metal miniature, and just all in all, a really great sculpt. I've seen this painted up in a lot of different ways, most of the time because he's so Gandalf-like that they'll just paint him up basically just like Gandalf. And what I didn't want to do that with him, as I was explaining before. I wanted to go with the one of the blue wizards. And so what I did was I started off the entire model, as weird as it sounds, with a big giant blue airbrush spraying, and then I washed it down and did several. I did like one glaze and then several different kind of glaze slash layers that I did over top. And I'll bring this up a little bit closer so you can kind of see some of the details. And so what I did was I basically began layering that up to kind of give a lot of contrast. I really wanted to make this model kind of pop from the table, especially when you got a game like Frostgrave where you've only got 10 models per side, but you're playing on a, like I say, a 3x3 table, and the models can not get lost, but if they're not very contrast heavy, they can kind of pop out of there. And so, like I say, I layered this all up, kind of picked out a lot of the details. I did sort of a bluish tint on the sword there, just by using a little bit of a glaze, and then kind of painting up his flesh, just in kind of just a basic Caucasian sort of flesh tone. That in that way, it kind of went with the Gandalf, but I went with the brown beard again instead of going with the gray beard, because I just figured, going back and looking at it, you had Gandalf the Gray and Saruman the White, who had basically you had Gandalf the Grey who had the gray beard, and then Saruman the White who had the white beard. I mean, you could technically say, because you had Radagast the Brown who had the brown beard, so you could technically say, oh, the blue wizards had blue beards, which I just think would have looked stupid on a model, but. So I just kind of went with a standard kind of gray/tan, and then I obviously just dry brushed up the staff here just to kind of give it a little more detail. And it's kind of interesting because this staff is almost like Gandalf's first staff before he became Gandalf the White in the movies. It's a little more. It doesn't have the crystal in it, but it's a little more. Just looks like a stick that he just basically picked up out of the woods and kind of chopped off all the little extra bits. I do like. There's a couple of little like potions and pouches and stuff like that on his belt. Just really cool details. I like the way the cloak is so flowing. I can't remember who the sculptor of this model was. It might have been Warner Clock. I can't remember, but just really great sculpt. Very. One of the things about me is I love action poses. So this guy gives the look of, he has the look of that almost "you shall not pass" sort of moment from the Lord of the Rings, if you guys are familiar with that, or just really anything along those lines. He just really has that look of like he is in the middle of casting a spell and like getting something off. He's just kind of shouting out into the void, and using different arcane magics and whatnot. But it really just, I don't know, something about this model invoked that sort of Tolkien-esque style of character. And all in all, it was a really fun model to paint and really interesting to kind of get to. And again, for those of you who maybe haven't played Frostgrave, it's a very fun game. We just adjusted the game itself to be able to be played two-player, and I mean two-player co-op. Not you can play the game versus, which is fine, but we decided to do more of a co-op game, which was pretty interesting, all in all. And I mean, it takes a little more work. You have to, and you kind of, both of you have to be on the same team as far as making sure the monsters are being played smartly by both players. But really, all in all, it's a pretty fun game, and this is really one of the great models if you're looking for a very classic style wizard for RPGs, or I mean, because I'm sure this model will end up getting used for whatever role-playing game that we're playing as well, whatever Pathfinder game, might even get used in Kings of War, because one of our Kings of War armies has kind of a blue motif, so I'm sure that at some point they'll get drafted as a spellcaster in a Kings of War game at some point down the road. But just all in all, it's a model that you'll get a ton of use out of. I just think, like say, if you're painting it up in that particular way, and that's kind of the way I looked at it, was that we're gonna get just so much use out of it, and also it was just really fun to paint. So I hope you've all enjoyed taking a look at this model, and if you're looking for a classic style Tolkien-esque wizard that you might want to paint up for your RPGs or Frostgrave or whatever else, you may want to consider this model. But all in all, it's just really fun. So I hope you have all enjoyed this Stoneforge gaming video, and I will see you in the next one.